Hello, Carl, and welcome to Rendering Unconscious. I'm so glad to have you back. You have so much going on. We have so much to talk about. Let's get into it.
Thank you. As always, a pleasure to be here.
So, what should we start with? I say the class. You have a fantastic class coming up online via Morbid Anatomy on the magic of occult cinema, and that starts soon on September 15th on Sunday.
That's right. It's kind of a mix or a merger of two totally favorite topics, occultism and cinema. They're all great as individual topics, but when you merge them, there's simply so much material. And this class is great because it's a four-session class, and it's a subject or a topic that is so vast. You can't even you have to sort of weed out some stuff, unfortunately. But I'm going to do it like this. It's like you talk about the history of occult cinema and then talk about occult cinema proper, meaning thematic films, films dealing with occultism and magic. And the third session will be about satanic films specifically, dealing with Satan, Satanism, that kind of thing. And then the fourth one will be tying it in with very contemporary examples of occult cinema because it is part of the overall occulturation that's going on. So it'll be history, but also the future, a deep dive into really occult magical films and also satanic films. And for me, it's like I feel like a kid in a candy store in a way because I love both these areas or zones so much, and now I get to put them together. It's going to be a blast, basically.
I'm super looking forward to it. I'm really excited about it because this is going to be all new material to me, and I can't wait to see what you come up with, what you have brewing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I mean, again, it's a really vast topic, and I'm going to do my best at being, um, well, it'll be subjective, focus on favorites and show little clips and great pictures and stuff like that. And also try to touch on the totality, but I will dive into examples, certain films that I feel are, um, containing a lot of signal in a way, in a specific way from a specific era. Because of course, occultism and magic was right there from the beginning when movies became a thing, when people started making films, as with basically any kind of medium. It's like, there's always sex, there's always pornography when there's a new medium or a new technology, and there's always some kind of flirting with the occult. So it'll be a good sort of look at the early stuff and then onwards into the future via our contemporary times with many examples, many great clips. Also, I
Yeah,
want to
of
say
course.
that I also invite people, as you know, to have these discussions after the actual talk. So every session is like we have allotted 1.5 to 2 hours, and I'll usually be talking for an hour and showing examples. And then I look forward very much to talking to people, to talking to the members of the class, to about what they think, their favorite films, that kind of stuff, to invite to a very a conversation basically between film buffs, people who love movies and who love the occult.
Absolutely. And this is the third class, I guess, we're teaching for morbid anatomy. And the other two have gone really well. The cut up class that we did, we started last fall. So it's been about a year of these classes. And that was such a success that they asked us to do it again. So we did it again in the spring. And a lot of those people have joined our Patreon and our Discord. And so we're getting to have ongoing conversations with them, and they have conversations with each other. Our discords become so fruitful talking about art and magic and cut ups, and people share their works in progress. It's a great thread going on right now with people sharing works in progress. And then you did the class on Anton LaVey and the Church of Satan, the history and magic over the summer in July. And that was also such a huge success, even more of a success, I would say, in that so many people came and had such great discussions. You showed such great material that's like a lot of it had not been seen before. And you also have such a unique take on everything that's your own personal point of view and weaving all these things together. I think everyone really appreciates it who comes into contact with you. And now a lot of those people are on the Discord and chatting, and yeah, it's just becoming such a great group. I really love that we've started the Discord through our Patreon, and I really love that we're doing these classes, and it's just becoming more and more of a community.
Absolutely. And yeah, because this kind of it's not a one-way signal, it's an invitation to communicate and be in touch basically. And I love that. And I think in terms of what makes our or my classes special is that I think I don't even have a term for it, but I do tend to look at things that have affected me, whether it's a movie or an era or kind of philosophical or magical system, or even an object in a way. And when I look closer into that thing, trying to understand why it has affected me in a benevolent, beneficial way, then I want to take that on and sort of reformulate it and present it to other people in the hope that it will also inspire them or you know, satisfy them. I think it's not like, you know, a history class and, you know, then this director did this and then he did that. It's more of a intuitive exploration of the mind frame of the real artists who made these incredibly magical films that I'm going to be talking about.
Fantastic. And a great example of one that was there really early on, of course, is Nosferatu, which is now being redone by Robert Eggers. So that's kind of an interesting connection because that should be coming out soon.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think many of these films, like Nosferatu, I do have a personal relationship with or two. Like, I think it was in 1992 that White Stains made a soundtrack for Nosferatu that was performed screenings in Stockholm and Gothenburg, because I was at that time a film collector, meaning collecting prints. So I had Nosferatu on 16 millimeter, the Murnau version.
Mm.
And yeah, it brings back very good memories. So of course I'm a little bit I don't know, trepidation, anxious about the new version, but I think Eggers has done some interesting stuff. So I'm sure he's getting away with it in a way.
Yeah, I really like The Lighthouse and The Northman.
Hmm.
Yeah, and you used to travel around with these films and had like a film club, and
Yeah,
you used to travel around with Hexon and
yeah.
that sort of thing back in the late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah, absolutely. I traveled with a show called Visions of Occulture that contain, you know, some Hodorowski films and Witchcraft Through the Ages or Hexan and some other films too. Satanis, the documentary about LaVey from 1969. Um, so it seems I can't shake off these things. I just love movies, love seeing new movies, but of course the classics are the classics. And I'll be talking about both these aspects, both the classics and the new ones.
Yeah, that's going to be great. And you also have a couple of events in Morbid Anatomy coming up later this year, like in October. You're going to be talking about Midsummer as part of their Monday
Yeah,
night
yeah.
series. And then I think in December, you're going to be talking about Ed Wood and Orgy of the Dead. So,
Mhm.
yeah, this will be great. Definitely. I'll put links to our Substack so people can stay abreast of all of the things you have
Yeah.
going on. And that's a good thing to talk about as well, your Substack. You just started a Substack a few months ago and it's really going strong.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not the Carl Abrahamsson Substack, but the Fenris Wolf Substack. The Fenris Wolf being the occultural journal that I've been publishing and editing since 1989, basically. And just now, there was a new issue released, actually today. Um, but it's such a cumbersome and pretty slow process of making these books, making these, you know, text-heavy anthologies of what I called a smorgasbord of occulture and delightment. So they're big books, but so many things are happening all the time. So I thought that, you know, the Fenris Wolf should really have a Substack in order to, you know, have fast news, also allow for book reviews. Book reviews don't really fit into the book in a way, but on a Substack or online, it works really well. Plus, of course, other projects that I'm involved in that belong under the Fenris Wolf umbrella. So that's why the Substack happened, and I'm very happy with it. It's a great platform. And I've also decided now to recently pool all my films, all my film work, and also lectures and teachings meditations, stuff like that, into the Substack. So there's a free Substack with a lot of stuff, news, substantial, short stories, fiction, book reviews, what have you. And then there's a paid version where people who are paid members get access to all of my films, all of my recorded lectures, other kinds of teachings, meditations, um, and there will be a lot more added throughout this autumn also. It's just going to be what I call a soft explosion.
Yeah, there's already so much there. You have so many great films. Let's go through them. The one on Anton LaVey that you did, Into the
Mhm.
Devil's Den. There's one on Charles Gatewood, Once the Toothpaste is Out of the Tube. Gustav Brahms. You should go through them.
Yeah, I think the Kenneth Anger one is worth mentioning, and the Change Itself with Jan, and the one with Vicky Bennett, People Like Us. It's just a lot of interesting interviews with really creative and magical people that I work really hard on. And as a, on a good note, cumbersome work note, I have probably 8 documentaries shot that I haven't edited together yet. That's also kind of a winter project. But the films that are there now, I've also decided to remove from YouTube because they were there because I didn't really know where to place them. So I thought, hey, people might as well, watch them. But now I've moved them to the Fenris Wolf Substack because I feel it's a better place than just being in this vast ocean of so much crap also. So people are interested in these documentaries about Anton LaVey, Kenneth Anger, Charles Gatewood, Gustav Brahms, Vicky Bennett, Jan, of course, the Change Itself documentary.
Genesis Peerage.
Yeah, and then, so much other stuff, and also loads of lectures about Crowley, Babylon, sex magic, Rudolf Steiner, um, individuation. Yeah, there's simply so much. We can't even go through everything. And also, again, more stuff will be added throughout the autumn. So going to the Fenris Wolf Substack is really a good place to get to know me and my work, and also be inspired by all of these other great people who are there.
Yeah, it's wonderful. And I love the new guided meditations that you've been putting there and at our Patreon. And the great thing about Substack is it allows us to post video content where Patreon we can't, it doesn't really have a hub. It's not really a way to post that there. So that's why we've kind of expanded into Substacks. Plus, people like different platforms, so we're trying to cater to everyone. So we have some stuff on Patreon. We still do our Magic Monday every Monday, talk about magical and creative processes, and that's exclusive to Patreon. And then now we've got Substacks going. You've got the films and lectures, and I've started putting up lectures as well. I have one from Jen from Genesis Peerage from 2013 when she came to speak to a class I was teaching with Jameson Webster at the New School on gender, sexuality, and perversion. So I put that lecture up at my Substack for people who are paid subscribers. And then I also put the lecture that I was supposed to give at Columbia University in May, that I didn't go to that conference in support of the protesters, the student protesters, and the people of Palestine. And so I put that instead. I recorded it when I was back home here and put that up. And that's about the theories of Otto Rank, an early psychoanalyst and student of Freud, and his theories about art and life being kind of one, and living your life as a work of art. And then I talk about artists who did that, like Val Denham, Pierre Molyneux, Overtachi, and Genesis and Lady J. Breyer Peerage. And then I've started recording my book, Things Happen, as an audiobook, and I'm releasing segments every few weeks. So I just put one up last week, and I'm going to put one up again this week as well. So yeah, so there's stuff happening at Substack and Patreon.
Yeah, totally, totally. And it's fun. It's a good way to share material because both you and I are so prolific and productive. It's almost hard at times to keep track of what we're doing ourselves. So in a way, you have to formulate and sort of extrapolate and publish them. And of course, not everything can be published in books at this, fast-paced speed. So posting stuff online is almost like yeah, it's necessary for us to be in touch with people so that they can know what's actually going on, because there is always a lot going on, very magical stuff happening.
It really is. And we do have a lot going on in September and October. We've got your class that we talked about starting September 15th. Then on September 17th, we're going to be on Stockholm because you're going to be introducing two films. Maybe you could talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll be at the Capitol Cinema in Stockholm on September 17th to introduce two new documentaries. I haven't made them. I'm in one, and the other one features some of my material that I've shot. The first one is Realm of Satan by Scott Cummings. It's a beautiful poetic vision, in a way, about people who are members of the Church of Satan. So it's not a documentary about them. It's more like a poetic insight into daily lives, daily chores, what it means for them to be a Satanist, basically. And I am briefly featured in that film, so I'll be introducing that to the Stockholm audience. And the new wonderful documentary about Genesis Peorage called She Is Still Here. Some of my footage and photographs are in the film. And it was interesting also because I made a documentary together with Genesis already in 2015 called Change Itself. That's one of the films that are available on the Substack. So it's very interesting to compare. This new film is more about Jen as an artist during the very last years of Jen's life. So it's endearing, very good. It's also a good history about the early days with Coombe and Throbbing Gristle and Psychic TV, and also the Temple of Psychic Youth. All of these things are very dear to me. So I feel honored to not only have the filmmaker be a fan of mine, but also to introduce it and make people realize that this is a very, very good film. It's called She Is Still Here, and the other one about the Church of Satan members called Realm of Satan, and people should really check those films out. Also, I should mention that we'll be in Gothenburg to do a similar thing with She Is Still Here. I think maybe you know the date better than me there. It's
October 12th.
October 12th at Bio Roy, right? Bio Roy
Mm.
in Gothenburg.
Yes, we'll be traveling for those. And then also in October, we have a conference that Casper Opstrup is hosting, co-hosting. And so we'll be in Copenhagen on the 24th and 25th for that. I'm going to be presenting the conference is about kind of the blurred lines between fact and fiction, between reality and fiction. And so I'm going to talk about the making of my book, Things Happen, and how I took like personal memoir and dreams and kind of, fact or things from real life and then cut them up and rearranged them and made them into this kind of fiction fantasy novel.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll be carrying on in my recent, enthusiasm about writing about movies. I'll be I'll be talking about this fantastic film, really a favorite of mine, called Seconds by John Frankenheimer, 1966, which is well, it's hard to say what it's about. It's about identity and how malleable our identities are, and how wrong things can go if we go too aggressively into changing who we actually are. And I'm going to tie that in a little bit with Brandon Cronenberg's Infinity Pool. Both these films are well worth watching. Frankenheimer's Seconds and Infinity Pool by Brandon Cronenberg, David Cronenberg's son. So yeah, it's going to be a great conference with wonderful people. Great to see a lot of old friends there again and make some new ones. And eventually, I think if you know me and my way of working, my very, I don't know, frenzied writing about movies right now will, of course, end up in a book of movie essays sometime 2025, I'd say.
Wonderful. And yeah, the conference is called A Tide of Ghosts, Esotericism and Art Beyond Fact and Fiction. So that's October 24th and 25th in Copenhagen, and I believe the conference is free. So that's very cool. You should definitely sign up if you're in the area or even travel to come and see us. I think it's going
Hmm.
to be a really great event. There's a lot of great people presenting, and they're even having performances at night on the Friday night. So it's going to be really fun.
Hmm. Absolutely.
And what else is going on, Carl? Oh, wait, you also have more books coming out. Well, you just
Yes.
had a book come out in between the lines,
Yeah.
and you have another book coming out in October, Meetings with Remarkable Magicians. And there's a
That's
book
right.
launch that's also free at Morbid Anatomy on October 27th. So we're going to be coming right back from Copenhagen and
Yeah.
going right into your book launch for Meetings with Remarkable Magicians online, Morbid Anatomy.
Absolutely. I wanted to mention this one that is actually has been released. It's in between the lines. Essays on culture, magic, and seductive zombie strippers. It's the most recent addition to my what I call anthology books. They're all the most recent lectures, essays, contributions to various journals from the past year, basically. What began with resonances, carried on with occulture, also source magic, and now in between the lines. They're very similar in nature. There's a kinship there in that they are collections of essays about different things, but most of the people, the fans I have, like that there is a kind of invisible red thread between all these things. So I think if you liked my earlier books, you will also like In Between the Lines very much because it contains just new and fresh essays and lectures. Then, of course, we have this beast of a book, uh, Meetings with Remarkable Magicians, which is basically my autobiography when it comes to the occult and occulture, that kind of focus on magic. Of course, an autobiography about my work in general and stuff like that would be more massive, I think. But this is about the magic, it's about the occult, the people I have met during my journeys on the path, so to speak, and what they have taught me from real mentorship and teachings to stuff that I've learned just by absorbing by osmosis, by being around a lot of very interesting people. That in itself is a magical thing to trust your intuition and place yourself either on strategic paths or into the unknown and see what happens and which people approach you and might or might not teach you things that you can then integrate. And I think the working title of this book was Two Times Saturn, because I'm coming into my second Saturn return, and I wanted to sort of sum up these two, well, let's call them perhaps the two first two-thirds of my life, might also be the first two-fourths, we'll see. But basically, what's been going on and where I am right now, because things, of course, change in life. You get a different approach, different focus. You might lose some denominations, some allegiances, some loyalties, just by living, just by moving on and finding new things that make you tick. And I've always been a ticker in the sense that things that make me tick, I want to move it on, repackage it, reformulate it for new generations. And I feel that I'm very competent in that sense, in that I've had some formidable teachers who've all been prime movers and shakers in not only the magical world, the magical communities, but also in culture in general. So I do believe I have kind of a nice, colorful palette to paint my own pictures with. And that's basically what this book is. It's released on October 1st. I think some people have actually gotten their pre-order copies already because the book has been ready for about a month or two. But October 1st is the official release date for this book, available on Amazon and wherever you buy your books. Meetings with Remarkable Magicians, Life in the Occult Underground by me, Carl Abrahamsson. I'm very happy about this, of course. Very, very happy.
I love it. I read it, of course, when you were writing it, and but now I'm reading it in proper book form, and it's just so good. And yeah, of course, on the cover it has you with LaVey, you with Genesis, you with Kenneth Anger. But you also talk about like going to Tibet and studying there and things that I didn't know that you did. And it's really, really cool to read so much things that you've done.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think what's good also, it's kind of hard to fiddle and come up with some kind of balance because it can be quite boring to write biographies or autobiographies that are just chronologies. This book is much more of a palimpsestic kind of it's a collection of impressions in a way, sort of pseudo chronological. Because I think the most important thing is the formulation of knowledge and teaching, and sometimes also inspiration, how that sort of seeps through my system and is moved out through my own formulations, like I said. And I think that in my case, very much being an author, being a writer, I have formulated these things, basically magical ideas, magical concepts, in many different ways. Some have been fairly straightforward lectures and teachings. This is about this. This is how you do it. Very, very concrete. But it has also taken more morphed forms. We could call it poetic forms. I'm thinking about my work with music and the spoken word things with White Stains and Cotton Ferox and my solo work, where magical concepts have been embedded in, for instance, musical structures, either live or recorded. So my voice brings forth my own magical formulations, but it's sort of contained within a context. I like that very much. And then, of course, we have the Mega Golem project, which is a world in itself, um, um, which is an artwork based on invisible contributions of basically magical artworks, building a new kind of golem, a mega golem, which is a construct of mine, but I also invited other people to be there. And I write about those kinds of things also in the autobiography. So it's not only on that day I did this or I met that person, it contains what's been going on in my mind and how that becomes real magical tools in my life, how that has sort of been integrated and can also be integrated in other people's lives.
Yeah, absolutely. No, the formulations are essential. Like you would say, it's all signal.
Yeah.
No noise. It's all signal.
Mhm.
It's so good. So yeah, so everyone should check out that book and then come to the release party. It's free on October 27th online. Links to all of this will be in the show notes and at this episode's page at renderingunconscious.org. What else do we have going on? That's a lot. I feel like there's more somehow.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I could say that as an example, or as a result rather of me working with meetings with remarkable magicians, and it's now it's coming to fruition. Now it's being released, published, and that will have an effect, of course. People will discover probably deeper layers of what I'm about. And while this has been brewing mainly with Inner Traditions, the publisher. They've been working on it. I have also come to I came to the conclusion that I wanted to open myself up a bit more and offer consultations in a way. Many people have asked me over the years, why don't you do this? Or can I talk to you? Or can you be kind of a magical mentor? And sometimes I've said, that's okay, we can do it. Or sometimes I felt more introverted, not quite ready, perhaps. I don't know. Basically, ambivalence. But now I feel that it's time to be very open about the ideas I have, how they have helped me, and how I feel that they can also help other people. And I've decided to call it Source Magic Mentorship. Meaning source magic, that's the title of my previous anthology of occultural essays, but there is one essay in there simply called Source Magic, that is about how everything we do, all aspects of human culture, basically shamanic in origin, and that it's much easier to get in touch with deeper levels of yourself when you have that source magic approach, meaning using shamanic techniques to get more inside yourself. You don't really need the kind of extroverted religious or magical systems where you're swimming in a sea of symbols or gods or god forms or whatever, very complex stuff that can, of course, be beneficial. But I argue that it's much easier to come in close touch with yourself and then see what you can do to make your life better. That's basically the Source Magic mentorship. And I've worked with it, I've conceptualized it, I have opened up so that people can see me, talk to me over Zoom, unless they're in Småland, which they're usually not. But basically, be in touch, and we can talk about this either for a few sessions or longer. It's something I enjoy greatly because now I feel confident that I've written this book about my life, my integration, my treatment of ideas, my development of ideas, and I feel I have a lot to give to people.
Absolutely. I'm so glad you're doing it. And of course, you do have some people that you've been mentoring over the years, but I'm glad that you're offering it to more people a little bit more
Yeah.
openly. And it's wonderful to see. And of course, you're right. It's all about individuation and really finding, what's inside yourself and how you can manifest things and invent your life the way you want it to be. And it really reminds me of the psychoanalytic approach in a way where it's like people have to learn that they have to stop like looking for like, oh, this system's going to solve everything, or this person knows everything, or like always looking outside of themselves, when really you have to learn to kind of look inside yourself and find the answers and what's best for you there.
Hmm.
And of course, having a guide who's done that, which you've also been through psychoanalysis, so you know
Yeah.
how that goes.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, yeah.
Having
I
a
feel
guide in
feel
that way is so
that
helpful.
brought, yeah, and it brought a lot of things to my life. I was in analysis for 4.5 years, doing like the full 5 day a week thing, and it not only helped me with a lot of very crucial issues, but it also produced a kind of respect and awe almost for the technique in itself, meaning, what's called the talking cure in a way. You have to formulate, and sometimes it's redundant, very often it's banal, but you still have to do it in order to exorcise certain things from your system. And then, of course, you need someone who can guide you in different ways. And I mean, my Source Magic mentorship is, I guess, a combination of a little bit of everything, but it's more active, more conversational than psychoanalysis or that kind of psychotherapy. I believe that a very helpful thing is to have these, deep conversations, and also to work actively with, let's call it talismanic magic, meaning creating magical things for certain purposes. And they could be, love charms, or they could be curses, or they could be anything that the person in question wants to get into his or her own system or out of the system. But there are so many interesting things that you can integrate from magical history, from magical lore, from magical thinking, from magical behavior. Um, that I think, in combination with being attentive to how the person formulates, why the person brings up these things, it's very interesting to me. And I think so far it's been very, very good for the people involved.
Absolutely, and I think also you did a bit about that talismanic magic. We did our first 23rd Mind
Yeah.
magical retreat, and we had 11 artists, magical artists, join us here in Vimmerby at our house, and we had a wonderful week. And that was part of the different kinds of things that we did, was that you had them create a magical talisman from. We bring home little pieces of wood when we go on our hikes in these beautiful forests around here, and people carved them or ornamented them in some way. Even you had your pyrography machine where they could like burn symbols into them.
Mhm.
And then we brought them to like a beautiful magical site in the forest, which we just visited yesterday when we were on a similar hike. And we went to burial mounds, and you did those beautiful photographs of your new pathography technique.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was just such a fantastic week, and we are in a group chat. Everybody's still chatting about it. Yeah, all day, every day since
Hmm.
a couple weeks ago. Yeah, and it was so nice to invite everyone here and have this really kind of fruitful week.
No, absolutely. There's so much that can be said for, the value and potency of physical proximity, but it can also be cumbersome if you have too large groups or too much logistics involved. It sort of takes the spirit away in a way. But we decided to not house more than we could actually house in the house, and there was a very convenient size group. And I think that many of these things were conceptualized beforehand, but they only became alive and worth anything when people were actually communicating about it. Another thing that we did was create an audio sigil together, and we just spontaneously or prepared, record something, a poem or just a word or just a grunt, whatever. And those sound bites, several people are now working on to create basically magical music with it. So I think sometimes you don't have to be so incredibly complicated. Magic works in mysterious ways, and it's usually very simple ways that have profound effects. Because
Mm.
the more our mental capacities and the intellectual aspects come into play, I wouldn't say that it becomes less magical, but it becomes, again, perhaps imbued with a little bit more noise and less signal. Whereas if you keep it really simple, you not only honor, but you also hone the signal. And that's very important to learn.
No, absolutely. And you're so good at that. And yeah, I think your guidance is, yeah, really wonderful. So thank you, Carl.
Thank
Um,
you.
and I think that was a great week. And yeah, I also invited everyone. It was basically, we're kind of done with psychoanalysis and art and the occult conferences per se in this kind of academic format that we started with. Kind of moved out of that realm, and then inspired by our last psychoanalysis art in the occult conference in Copenhagen, and Swedish artist River, who does really fantastic work that I'll also link to. She wanted to know when we were going to do one again, and we had done one every third year, basically, and we were a little bit tired. And so she decided to host a magical retreat here in Sweden last summer and invited a lot of people from that conference and also other magical artist friends of hers. And that was so generative that somebody from that event said, "When are we going to do that again?" And then I thought, well, we could certainly host something similar here. And what River had done was invited everyone who participated in the retreat week last summer to present their own work in some way during the week. So not in this formal conference way where it's like three people on a panel, behind a desk or at a podium giving a talk with a slideshow or whatever, but just more casual. Here we had everyone sit around our dining room table, and we just did presentations there. And yeah, some people performed music, some people did give like talks or lectures, some people showed their film or their artwork, led a workshop. You led a guided meditation. We did the audio sigil. We also had a private screening of Genesis's new film at the cinema here. Yeah, it was just wonderful. We
Mhm.
took people on excursions. We went hiking in the forest. We went to old pagan sites. We visited 1,000-year-old oak tree in our neighborhood and we visited some rune stones, some very famous rune stones that are nearby. Yeah, so it was really wonderful. I went to the spa, went to the lake, went swimming,
Yeah.
had a wood burning sauna on the lake. We went there twice. We had great communal meals, which was really fun as well, where we all kind of cooked together. So it was just a wonderful generative week. I wrote about it a bit for the last Magic Monday, and I think you wrote about it for today's Magic
Yeah.
Monday.
Yeah.
So people want to hear more about that, they can come to Patreon. And basically, most of these people are either close friends of ours that have been to our events or people in our Patreon community that came.
Yeah, and then the way we work also it becomes as they call it, cross-disciplinary, it's like or intersectional, whatever that means. Basically, a lot of the people who came to this retreat and to previous retreats and conferences have become part of our network, and it's growing. And so, for instance, a few of the people are now also in Fenris Wolf number 12 that was just released today. So it's we live in a fairly small world, but we're making it bigger each day.
Yeah, and it's also part of a great tradition. Like we've talked about at many of our events, a lot of the kind of magical mentors that we had were really open with us and generous and supportive of our work, like right off the bat. And
Hmm.
we're also just naturally that way. But I found like everyone that I know personally that's become a close friend is
Hmm.
also that way. We're just very supportive. People aren't competitive or like, yeah, trying to cut each other down in any way. Everybody's super generous and just excited to see what each other is working on. And yeah, when you come to our Patreon community, we just basically come supportive. The next podcast after this one is Chris Collins, who was in our cut up class, and then he joined our Patreon and our Discord. And then I'm like, wow, this guy's work is really fantastic. I mean, it's absolutely gorgeous. You'll
Yeah.
see. And then yeah, I want to support him and have him on the podcast and talk about it. So yeah, we like to pay it forward and backward and yeah, acknowledge our inspirations and our sources and also help support people coming up.
Hmm. Absolutely.
That's the way. That's the way the world should be. Would be a
Yep.
better world if
I
everyone
agree.
did that.
Yeah.
So yeah, feel free to get in touch. Come to Substack, come to Patreon. You can email Carl directly if you're interested in the consultations. His email address is carl@carlabrahamsson.com. It's Carl with a C and Abrahamsson with two S's. You can find information for all of this at his website, which is carlabrahamsson.com. And the Substack is thefenriswolf.substack.com. Is there anything else? I'm sure there's more, but I think that's good. I think that's a
Yeah.
lot going on. That gets us through October, and then you'll come back on
Absolutely.
for
I
whatever's next.
cannot even remember everything that we're doing. It's too much. But anyway, there are many interesting books coming up also because the Fenris Wolf 12 again was released today. That became on my desk kind of a the ketchup bottle. So now the ketchup bottle effect is out. Suddenly all the ketchup will be flowing out, and there will be many new books from Trapar coming out very soon also.
Like my book with Val.
For instance, yeah, absolutely. It'll be a great book of collaborative art that you've made together with Val Denham and also texts. Beautiful art book that will be out soon. And also we'll make available the actual artworks in the original artworks that are reproduced in the book. We'll make them available for sale also. So it'll be kind of a unique release.
Yeah, that'll be exciting. But for now, Fenris Wolf 12, In
Yes.
Between the Lines, Meetings of the Remarkable Magicians.
And the Fenris Wolf Substack and my
And
consultations. Yeah. Yeah.
all right, and with
Don't
that,
be a stranger. Don't be
I
a
love you,
stranger.
hubby. You're the best. And
So are
yeah, I'll
you.
see you in a minute. We'll go walk Linnea.
Yes, that's right. Bye. Bye
Bye.
bye.